for today's walk and talk, a girlfriend of mine sent me a news article from CNN that said housing prices should be falling. This one right here. And she said, this must mean that prices are gonna come down soon, right? If there's a bunch of houses sitting on the market. My initial response was, no, this is a national news story. It's not necessarily a story for here in Richmond. But I read it, and there were kind of 4 key points or takeaways that I wanted to make after reading this article. So the very first thing that catches my eye when I'm reading this article is the statement that housing is not becoming more affordable, it's that there are fewer buyers in the market. So what that says to me is you could still be competing for the house, you're just competing with 3 people instead of 10 people, so the housing prices aren't skyrocketing as high. The house that was $200,000 3 years ago and is now listed for $350,000 all of a sudden isn't $250,000 now. It's still $350,000. It's not that all of a sudden prices are going to drastically drop, it's that there just aren't as many buyers, so the prices aren't skyrocketing. It says in the article 75% of buyers are waiting for home prices to drop. 75%. I think the important thing here to ask yourself or to really think about when you're looking at these numbers is, would you rather compete with a couple people right now with an interest rate that you could maybe change over time, or would you rather compete with 2 other people for the same house in a couple years at probably a higher price point than it's listed right now? That's just one of the factors to think about. And they say something in this article that I think is really important. He says, I think that prices are only going to decrease or fall by 1%. And it's like, why 1%? That's not really that big of a number. It's not very impactful. And it's because sellers, there's not going to be a huge reduction or there's not going to be a huge decrease in pricing unless there's something that makes sellers sell. So unfortunately, our age group, the millennial age group, we sort of lived through the 2007-2008 bubble burst, which was where people had all been approved for these big mortgages, and then turns out they couldn't afford them, so then the banks had to take their houses back. That was a sellers have to sell, so they were trying to sell for lower prices. This is not that kind of market. But unless there's something that forces a seller to sell who's staying locally, if they don't like the price they're getting for their house, they just stay. They just take it off the market and they just stay put. And are like, well, we'll try again in 6 months or next year or in 3 years or whatever happens. They don't have to sell it. So unless there is some big thing that happens that makes them sell, prices aren't going to drop that drastically because sellers still need to make the money they need to make. So if you have questions, you want to talk, schedule a Q&A call. Always happy to chat with you about your particular situation or walk you through what buying or selling looks like, and then we can go from there. All right, talk soon, friend.